Hey guys, welcome to Breakfast All Day. Great to have you. Christy Lemire here and Dave White filling in for Alonzo this week. And this is really the perfect week to have Dave from The Wrap from Linoleum Knife Podcast Network. Because if you've listened to their podcast, you know these guys are Madea aficionados.
We love Madea.
With no irony.
No. Why would you have irony?
No, I don't know. I do appreciate it.
Madea is a pure creation.
I have many fond memories of going with you guys to like the 10 p.m. showing of whatever Madea movie is on a Thursday night because they
that
never
was back when I stayed
them.
up after 8:30. Yeah.
So late. We need disco naps for Madea. But there is a new Madea movie, a Madea Homecoming. I'm sorry, Tyler Perry's a Madea Homecoming is out on Netflix now. And it's funny. It's called Homecoming. It's about a graduation.
Yes, it's about a college graduation where the whole family comes home.
They all come home.
Experience the graduation of a character we've never met before.
Never even heard of him.
Universe.
Tim,
yes.
Right? Tim. And he's Medea's great grandson.
Yes.
If you feel like doing some math in your head as to how that's possible and who all is in the lineage. And
there is a character in the film who does the math at one point, and it's very funny.
Where they talk about someone being 26 years old.
Where they talk about how old Madea should be at this point in history. And it comes after the whole Rosa Parks sequence.
That is the best bit in the whole thing. We cannot spoil that. However,
I won't. I promise I won't.
Yeah. I will say, okay, but since you mentioned it, this might sound like a contradiction, but this is the most technically ambitious Madea movie ever.
It is.
Narratively, technically, there are flashbacks, elaborate flashbacks.
There is a hilariously elaborate flashback. Yeah.
I laughed my ass off at that. Also, please stay through the credits. Yeah. That's all I'm going to say. I have a theory about this movie. I suspect that what happens in the credits is what Tyler Perry originally intended this movie to be. Perhaps a full-length version of that, and had to scrap it for whatever reason, maybe COVID, and ended up doing this smaller Homecoming. It's the same Madea shenanigans, the same family melodrama. You know, the great-grandson named Tim comes home with a guy named Davi, and we think that one thing is going to be revealed and then other things are revealed. And Joe, who is also Tyler Perry, is there to be profane, and Bam shows up to talk about how she used to be a hoe, and various other members of the family we've never seen in our lives show up. And
that is a wonderful thing about a Tyler Perry Madea movie, is that there is no thing that Tyler Perry wants to do in a Madea movie that he chooses not to do because it doesn't make sense. He doesn't care. Like, oh, you've never heard of this character before? Well, here they are. They've always been around. Oh, you missed this character that's been in all the other movies? Well, they're mysteriously absent. Like, it doesn't matter. So yeah, that's exactly what you were saying.
And reams of exposition to explain, well, so-and-so, well, you're valedictorian, right? And so you're doing great things with your future. I mean, just
yes.
Explaining who we all are. I think we talked about this before, how Tyler Perry has gotten less churchy with his Madea movies. They began as stage plays, and it was a combination of like raunchy humor, but also melodrama, but eventually like giving it all over to Jesus. And that will save you.
Yes.
There is way, way less Jesus in the past several Madea movies.
I would say that's accurate. Yeah.
Yeah. But what's interesting too is that he also wants to comment on Black Lives Matter here. What do you think is his take on Black Lives Matter based on how it's depicted here?
I think that the conversation that Black people I know are having about the world right now is far more multifaceted and variable than what is seen on, say, Twitter or Instagram or just really about anywhere. And so I don't know what Tyler Perry's personal politics are, but what I see happening in this film, where the idea of the Black Lives Matter protests are discussed, you see a lot of sort of pinballing of of ideas and opinions and perspectives. So it's a conversation that he is having, not just with a Black audience, but also a white audience, and also ongoing with himself.
Yeah.
I think the Madea movies are, quite frankly, a conversation that Tyler Perry is having with himself over the course of the past 20 years. So honestly, I don't know the answer to what he thinks about Black Lives Matter, but every character in this film has an opinion, and they are ricocheting those opinions off each other back and forth, from the most, progressive and activist perspective to somewhat pretty conservative ideas as well. And there's no telling what he thinks.
Yeah, that's a really good way to phrase it, because at one point, one character is talking about, like, why are we doing this? Why are we setting our own neighborhoods on fire? And it feels like a rather reactionary conservative perspective on Black Lives Matter. But then Joe comes out with his like leather vest on with all his pins and his Black Lives Matter t-shirt and his little cap. And like, is that making fun of people for that kind of extreme activism, or is it like embracing it? I don't know, but you're right. Ricocheting and pinballing is a good way to phrase it, because he's putting it all out there.
Yeah. Well, there are supporting characters who are also, having this conversation while Madea and Joe are, hurling, wild statements back and forth at each other. One of the family members is a cop, and so she talks, and then one of the other family members is saying, no, we need to defund the police. And so there is a lot of there are a lot of perspectives taking place on camera at the same time.
Yeah. And then you have white characters from Ireland, because Tim's best friend Davi is half Irish. He's like Black and Dutch and Irish.
Yeah.
And so we have someone dressed up. It's a man in drag. It's like Irish Madea. It's like Mrs. Doubtfire.
Do you know about this character?
Brendan O'Connell.
He is.
I don't know who it is. No.
He is the Irish Madea. There is a character called Agnes Brown, and there's a sitcom in Ireland. I just learned about this morning.
Great.
I've never seen the sitcom. It's an Irish sitcom called Mrs. Brown's Boys. And this character, Agnes Brown, is the Irish Madea, basically. And so somebody gave Tyler Perry some videos of this character, and he reached out to that dude and said, we need to work together.
That's amazing.
And Tyler Perry, there was an interview where he was quoted as saying, it doesn't matter what country you're from, what ethnicity you are, what your race is. Every family has someone like Madea in it. And he said, and so here we are. We have an Irish Madea, and I'm thrilled to have him here with me.
It was very amusing. That's very generous of him, actually. I mean, I gotta say, I laughed more than usual. This didn't look as shoddily put together. Like, the blocking and the framing is actually better. And then you have these like wildly ambitious set pieces. Again, stay through the credits. I laughed my ass off at the credits. They are
those
perfect.
Credits, stay through the credits are hilarious.
Perfect. Yeah. They're perfect. I kind of want that movie, actually. So what's your number?
The 8. This is, I think, my favorite Madea movie, because not only because the filmmaking is so much more like assured than it's ever been, and honestly, at this point, it's beside the point what kind of filmmaker Tyler Perry is. Like, all I want is Madea to come out and be wild and say funny stuff. And this time we've got like old-fashioned R-rated Madea back with the guns and the cussing and everything. He is a combination of Bugs Bunny and the Tasmanian Devil, and that is the purpose of Madea. And so I've always been a fan, and this is like the funniest one after Medea's Big Happy Family, which up to this point was my favorite, and I think also the funniest. This is, I think, the funniest one we've gotten to date, and the best made.
And I don't want to give away what happens in this one scene. There's a scene that is handled with like tonal precision. There's a big revelation that occurs, which usually would be like wild and sloppy in one of these movies. Yeah. And it's handled with a lot of grace that I was surprised by. Anyway, I'm going to say 7.6. You're saying 8. So 7.8 is our number. We mean this. We're not saying this ironically.
As a film critic and as a white film critic, my relationship with the Madea movies is radically different different than what it would be if I were Black.
Sure.
And if I were, Tyler Perry's intended audience, because Tyler Perry does not care about critics.
No.
And so the as I feel like I've learned, I know this might sound crazy, but I feel like I've learned from the Madea movies over time, and learned about where he's coming from and what kind of films he wants to make and who he wants to talk to.
Indeed. Well, he's talking to whoever he wants now on Netflix. So go
Yes.
check it out on Netflix. Thanks so much, you guys. Don't forget to subscribe if you have not already. We'd love to have you stick around and like this video and all that good stuff. And we are all of the social media places, all of them at BeFast All Day on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We are at patreon.com/BeFastAllDay, where we do cool things like TV recaps of Pam and Tommy and such. And Moon Knight's coming up soon. So come and join us there too. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Bye.